microphone. So who wants to get it? What we're going to do, you're going to ask a question. You're going to direct it to who you want it directed to. So if you ask Chris, Chris answers the question. Then after he's done, then Buddy will be able to go back and forth. Okay? Is that good with you guys? And we can't find the little clock thing, so I have my phone, but we're going to do the best we can. But we're going to give them each a couple minutes to introduce themselves, in case you don't know who they are, and just talk a little bit about yourself. Go ahead, buddy.
Go ahead, Chris. All right, good evening. My name is Chris Ayala, for those of y'all who do not know me. I've lived in Fredericksburg now for 25 years. I moved here back in 1999. And when I first came here, a gentleman invited me here to see Fredericksburg about applying for a job. And just going down Main Street, and then back when I was in really good shape, I used to run about 6, 7, 8 miles. I ran over the city, all over the city in Fredericksburg, and then eventually drove out the county and fell in love with Fredericksburg and Gillespie County and the small cities that are dwelling between that, county line to county line. I've enjoyed working for the Fredericksburg Police Department for 24 years. I spent my time working majority as an SRO, a school resource officer. I worked with a lot of youth, but along with that, as an SRO, I was also a police officer. I was able to teach my craft to the youth of this community as a police officer wearing a uniform. I'm going to say this, I have a 32-year experience in law enforcement. I can tell you that my first 7 years in law enforcement were probably the most pivotal for me, what I would like to say, that where being able to go back and teach to these young folks all the things that I was involved in as a patrol officer, as a police officer, patrolling the streets of even including Fredericksburg, Wilson County, Atascosa County, and the city of Pleasanton as a patrol officer. My craft has always been very passionate to me, being a police officer or now a sheriff's deputy, where I'm gainfully employed in Kendall County as a patrol deputy / SRO. What it means to me is to be able to take my craft and what I do and my experiences. I've been involved in everything from officer-involved shootings to officer-involved pursuits, officer-involved wrestling matches, where the real meat and potatoes goes to in our job. Experience is extremely important. I will not take that away from anyone. However, I have still been on part of the street world, and I have not left it. So I have an experience that takes it from the street to I'm hoping to bring it to the office of sheriff here in Gillespie County. My experience is that I believe has allowed me to stay 22 and a half years in the school district and be proud of what I did and proud of what I've accomplished because of the fact that I was a hardcore police officer for the majority of my law enforcement career. I ask for your support. I ask for you to please consider everything that you see, everything that you hear, and I'm also going to encourage you not to just listen, but I'm encouraging you to seek and go find the truth and do your own homework. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm glad y'all are all here this evening. I want to thank our host right off the bat for hosting this for us again. Thank you so very much. It gives the public the opportunity to come out and listen to the candidates one-on-one, and more importantly, to stand up and ask them a question of what they're doing, where they've been, and what's been happening. So for those of y'all that don't know me, let me give you a little history. I started as a certified peace officer back in 1980 when I started as a state game warden working for the state of Texas. My first duty assignment was a little county called Colorado County, where I served for almost 12 years before being able to transfer myself and my family up here to the hill country to Fredericksburg. We moved up here in 1992. I've been in this county for over 32 years. I know every nook and cranny of this county. It's really changed a lot though in that period of time. And then in 2009 or 2007, I retired and then ran. And in 2009, I became your sheriff. And I've been your sheriff for 15 years. Dedicated, honest, faithful servant to the public, to each and every one of you in this county. My goal is, and my mission as a law enforcement officer, is to be just that. A law enforcement officer, to uphold the laws in the state of Texas and do what I have promised you to do, which is to take that oath that I will faithfully serve you and take care of you. That's what I've done. I'm very proactive. I do not think, nor am I confined to a box. I'm very forward thinking. I look at the trends that are happening in the county. I have always addressed those very frugally with your taxpayer dollars, efficiently, with great training, with well-qualified applicants to bring you the very best in the law enforcement service. I am looking forward to serving as your sheriff another 4 years. And if you think about it, 43 years is a pretty long time. But I still have the zest to get up and go. I will not ask a single employee of mine to do anything that I wouldn't do myself. I've directed traffic, I've chased criminals, I've done everything. I just want you to know if you have any questions about what I've done, or if you have any questions or concerns about your sheriff's office or where we're going in the future, because I do not sit still, I always look to the future. So please, ask those questions. If you don't want to ask them here publicly, call me, the number's on this letter that I'm passing out, or come by the office at 1601 East Main and see me. My door is always open, and you're always welcomed. I humbly ask for y'all's vote and support in this upcoming election, and God bless you all.
Great. Thank you, both of you. Look at me being a waitress. I could do karaoke, I could be a waitress. Dang. Okay, so are you ready to start this off? Who wants to ask the first question? Right up here, Esther.
Can you hear? Okay. Chris, you mentioned a lot of emphasis on experience, and I totally agree with that. The way I understand it, that maybe Buddy can expand on that, the way I understand the job of a sheriff is more of an administrative job of looking over 62 staff, about $8.6 million budget, managing the jail, and all of that hiring and firing and staffing and training that goes with it is not so much of jumping over the fence and chasing after criminals. So I'm asking you, since you mentioned experience, please tell us specifically what administrative experiences do you have or you have had to manage any department in that kind of a size? Thank you.
Absolutely. First thing I want you to understand is that as a sheriff, you're correct, it's a lot of administrative, but it is not just the sheriff that runs that department. It's the department heads that run that department as well. Your chief deputy, your lieutenants, your jail administrator. So it's not that just Chris Ayala is going in this on his own. He's going to have to understand that he's got people of importance, of also background experience and knowledge, and I have to respect that. One of the best things as a leader is to understand it's okay to have smarter people than you under your leadership. It's okay to have that. My experience has been strictly as a patrol officer in that realm. However, I've been responsible for the entire Fredericksburg School District basically for the last 17 years. That's over 3,000 students. That's managing security and safety. That's creating that I, back in 2003, saw the need that we did not have any type of security plans of any form. So I created it by myself. I put it all together. And I made a plan that if my children were in that school, they would be the most protected kids, and every other child would win in that school because my kids were in a plan set up that they would be protected. So my leadership role became where I would have to teach teachers, educated teachers, to protect our students. My background is at the age of 17, I ran my first grocery store called M&S Groceries in my small hometown. I was then hired at the age of 18, a year after I got out of school, to run Super S Foods, which is now Lowe's, and then where I directed up to 35, 40 employees as a supervisor. And the goal was to make a profit for that industry, and trust me, they were hard on it. From that point on, I went to work in the leadership role as a manager for Radio Shack, and then from Radio Shack, I took a job with Walmart where I was assistant store director, where I worked as a management, where working with employees, leading employees. The key thing that you have to understand that being any leader it cannot be strictly based on me. It has to be based on the choices that I make of who I put in that leadership role with me. And I'm going to tell you right now, my heart is designed to listen more than it is to do what I want to do. I have to listen. And a leadership role has to take that input before they can then implement it, and then they execute it based on that. So my specific experience is in leading people to make sure that they're the safest people. If you can't lead them to be safe, if you can't lead them to know that what you believe in and to buy into what you're doing, my leadership experiences is I've been protecting for up until I left Fredericksburg. I protected over 4,000 people, technically, if you look at the employees, for the past 15 years. But it also took the assistance of working with the Fredericksburg Fire Department, the police departments, where I also trained in Harper, Texas. I trained their staff. I've trained over 33 schools around the state in the same plan that I created right here in Fredericksburg, Texas. So to me, a leader is not only what he can do on paper, it's about what they can do, and it is about sometimes jumping the fence. Because if a person works for me or is working with me, I need to know that he's properly trained, that he's going to get the support he needs when he crosses that fence. Thank you.
Okay, buddy, you'll have 3 minutes to respond.
Okay, I just want to let you know that all of my leadership skills began the day I left that training academy, because that's where the academy and my schooling actually started. When I left that training academy, I was on my own. If you know anything about a state game warden, they work all by themselves. They dictate their schedule. They dictate where they go and what they do. So I fulfilled that by being the very best and always showing up and responding to the citizens that I supported, that where I was responsible for. I'm a 24/7 guy. I always have been. I've worked very diligently to do that. My leadership roles are numerous. The sergeant game warden within the state of Texas until the legislature decided to change that ruling and changed us to game warden 6 at that time. Then when I became the sheriff here, I immediately was involved with the Sheriff's Association and utilizing the ability to position our county in the very best position it could be by working my way up, having to run for an elected position within the sheriff. And I want to tell each and every one of you how humbled I am to be elected by you, the citizens of this county. But to stand before the 254 sheriffs in the county, in the whole state of Texas, and be elected by your peers was monumental to me. And I continued to build on that throughout my career as I moved up, actually becoming the president of the Sheriff's Association, where during the legislative session, we were able to pass some great legislation to give each and every officer, jailer, and everybody at the sheriff's office a tremendous raise, which just occurred here last year. In doing that, you have to be able to look to the future. You have to be able to manage. And I tell you what, I have a great team working at that sheriff's office. There's 62 positions there. We have 1 patrol position left vacant. We have 2 positions left in the jail. We have employees that look us up and move from across the state to come work at what I consider the very best law enforcement agency here in the Hill Country, which is your sheriff's office. And I will tell you that that was not built by me alone. That was built by the historic traditions of how Gillespie County has worked together with all other agencies in this county. And I want you to know that's why we're all still in the same building as one big family over there, because we work together daily. I can pick up my coffee cup and walk down the hall and talk to the police chief, the highway patrol, anybody. Sorry, I may have run over, but I wanted to get that in there. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next question. Esther? Esther, over here, in front.
I got a follow-up question to his. Since he's talking about administrative, I'm retired law enforcement. I want to know from Sheriff Mills, I don't really care if you paper push all day long. It don't bother me. When's the last time you rode along with some of your deputies? When's the last time you supported them in an actual, in the car, see what's going on in our community?
As far as a specific ride-along, with a ride-along with them? Man, I'm trying to think. I think I rode along with somebody here the other day to go pick up one of the other cars here in the county.
I'm talking about an actual ride-along for the whole shift, see what's going on in the community. I don't care if you can sign your name to it. I want to know, have you been out with your officers or deputies and seen what's happening?
Yes, ma'am. Let me, and I will tell you that I do a lot of those things, but I guess the one that comes to mind here the most, because I spent like 5.5 hours out there doing it, was here the other day when we had that horrific accident over here on 290. All of the officers were there. The traffic was everywhere. They had the roads blocked off. They were diverting traffic everywhere. The firemen had the road blocked. The ambulance had the road blocked. And I was over here on this side of the scene, talking and visiting with each and every one of them. I was there at the scene while they were doing everything, and I spent the other 5.5 hours standing there keeping any traffic that got on 290 off of the fire and the first responders that were still at that scene. And that was just last week or a couple weeks ago. I don't know, time goes by pretty quick. It does.
Absolutely. Test. So again, if you didn't catch earlier, I am a full-time deputy with the Kenyon County Sheriff's Department. I have assisted and worked many accidents. We just had 2 accidents out on Interstate 10 where unfortunately 2 people lost their lives. And if you remember the fatal accident involving a RV / a truck there on 87 South, who happened to be a beautiful young lady from Fredericksburg, Texas, that I knew from high school. I was the second one on scene, and there was no doubt in my mind that there was nothing we could do for that young lady. However, the best that I could do is as the family arrived on scene, because I had personal knowledge of who they were, I had the ability to comfort them, be there with them, and exchange that understanding of what they were experiencing. Unfortunately, I couldn't experience their loss, but I could definitely be there to work with them in that capacity as a uniformed patrol officer. I have been in a uniform patrolling the streets of Fredericksburg and now Kendall County. I've been wearing a uniform pretty much my entire career. Going back to a little bit of what you asked, I have tested for sergeant on multiple occasions, have been the #1 pick, but because of my passion and my heart to protect the students and the community's children, I opted to pass up on the stripes. They did give me a pay raise, so I'm going to say they made that work, but my heart was in the school. So for me to say that I can promote, absolutely I can. But for me to say this, if I'm elected sheriff, that'll be one of the biggest goals that I will seek. My first year will not be attempting to go to Austin and shake hands with people up there. My first attempt will shake hands with the community members of Gillespie County, to sit down and ride on patrol with the deputies, go work a 12-hour shift in the jail to see what they're experiencing. And honestly, I would even like to become jailer certified so that I can truly understand what they're feeling. If elected in May, I'll have 7 months to go take a bunch of classes so that I can be able to figure that out. So the key thing to me is what she's alluding to. It's not about me if I'm elected sheriff. It's about those guys that are jumping fences. It is about those guys that are keying in on an MDT where they shouldn't be looking at it, where they should really be looking at the suspect. That's the importance of knowing what the craft is so that you can truly take that information, digest it, and then make sure it's disseminated out to your troops so they're the safest they can possibly be.
Thank you for that, both of you. Okay, next was somebody right over there. Okay, Esther's coming with the microphone.
Hi, this is for you, Mr. Ayala. You have referenced that much of your career has been a school resource officer. And in light of that fact, I personally am very, very concerned right now about the huge amount of illegal immigration coming across our Texas borders, along with the human trafficking, drugs, and crime, and all that such brings. My concern with you being elected is there is going to be a time frame for you to ramp up to actually be really well effective and going. So my question to you is, what right now is your experience and expertise in dealing with border control, other sheriffs, the DEA, ATF, and Homeland Security to keep our county safe? And what are your plans to make sure that we continue to be safe as we have been so far?
Okay. Testing. Okay. So the answer to that question is I have a lot of energy. I'm going to tell you right now, do I have knowledge of working with other sheriffs? Yes, I do. Do I have knowledge of working with other agencies, such as Border Patrol, such as those agencies? I used to invite those agencies into my classroom to educate the students on the laws of their craft, of what they did professionally. You have to understand that any person, I don't care who you are, if you're a CEO of a power company, if you're a CEO of a medical company, there has to be a learning curve. Now, the question of that is that person willing to learn and listen to what those other agencies are offering? There is a grant out there called Stone Garden. It's a grant that's going to be assisting the agencies, or county agencies, city agencies, in fighting that. I will address that. I do know that the county received a grant from that, and I would continue to seek that grant. I would continue to seek more. But again, the citizens of this county have to be informed of what's going on. If I become sheriff, that's my ultimate goal, is to be able to sit down with y'all once a month, twice a month, listen to the citizens and say, I want to be safe, Mr. Ayala. How do I do that? When I hear that, then my goal is then as a sheriff is to go out and seek and find that information that will do that. So to say that can I work with them, one of my biggest gifts as an individual is my ability to work well with others. That's my biggest asset in my life. And so when you think about my background as an SRO, you talk about all the above. I had to worry about the illegals that are still currently getting educated, because that's the laws of Texas. If they reside here, they have to be educated between a certain age of 5 and 18. And we know that they're connected to people. The other part is also human trafficking. We have to learn and educate teachers on what to look for and what to see as far as human trafficking. We deal with that on Interstate 10. We stopped the vehicle, we chased a vehicle the other day, and it has 7 illegals in it. But I was able to apprehend the driver, which is really the person we need to get, so that that person can't continue to do that. So I'm still in the interdiction stage of it. Can I then transfer that to the leadership? Absolutely. No question in my mind that my heart to protect this community will be that driving force. So to answer that, can I learn it? Absolutely. Am I willing to learn it? Absolutely.
You guys are doing good on this time thing. I haven't had to go beep in the 30 seconds. So if you hear me go beep, it's 30 seconds you got to go. Okay, go ahead, buddy. You can respond.
Okay, I want to let you know that I started working with Border Patrol when I first got out of the Parks and Wildlife Academy. They used to be scattered all over the state of Texas. They were everywhere. And I don't know if y'all remember, but our old game warden cars were green. And I guarantee you they look like Border Patrol cars. And when I first got to Eagle Lake, I had a lot of people down there that thought there was another Border Patrol agent in town, and it made it difficult for some of the people that were there because they left the area. I have worked tremendously in that aspect with Border Patrol, DEA, ATF, U.S. Customs. In my term down there in Eagle Lake, when I was down there, I was actually orchestrated and helped find a field working with the DEA, and I believe it was in 1991 or 92, somewhere around there. We did a controlled landing of 10,000 pounds of cocaine into an area where we actually busted a very, very big ring out of the Houston area. And I worked that all over that county forever and ever. I worked a lot of interdiction in the drug areas because a lot of people don't think that a game warden really does that much, but we actually do. And as the sheriff, I brought those relationships that I had with Border Patrol, DEA, U.S. Customs, everybody that I've worked for and worked with, to the sheriff's office. I'm very active in being involved in those aspects. We just left a class here last week where there were about 100 Border Patrol agents and other agencies that are advocately working against the influx of illegals and undocumented aliens into this country. And we had a big training there. We're networked throughout the whole state and throughout the nation. And the reason that I've done that is to adequately get the resources that I need to protect y'all here in this community. Yes, I want you to know that each and every one of your officers are well trained. They're great interdiction guys and gals. They know what they're doing. They find the drugs. And I want you to know, if you look at our Facebook page, if you read our local paper, if you listen to our local radio station, you won't always hear me on there, but you will hear and read and understand that I believe I have done a very good job of educating each and every one of you about what's happening here in your community. And I will continue to do that. Like I said, if you want to know anything or you miss something or you don't know what's going on, you can always come and ask me. But I want you to know that we've got a great team here and we're doing a fantastic job protecting y'all.
Thank you, buddy. Okay. Esther's going to hand you the microphone so everybody can hear the question. Right here in the front, and then we'll do that one.
Hi. We're new to the area, so I'm going to ask some dumb blonde questions. You said you were here in Gillespie County with the schools, but am I hearing it clear you're not working here in Gillespie County now? You're no longer here? Okay. Why did you make a choice to not continue working here, and why have you decided to come back here?
Okay, so to answer that question, in case you didn't hear, she asked me if I'm still working here. The answer is not. I'm working for Kendall County. And then the reason for being that, I did 23 years, 9 months with the city of Fredericksburg. My goal was to always be a part of the community in that setting. Towards my departure, it became where they did not want me in that role. And so my role at that point, I'm going to be honest with you, I made very good money. Me walking away from my position was actually a financial decision more than it really was why I left. When I had taught for 22 and a half years and worked my hiney off to do the best for this community and to protect their children, I received an email that I would no longer be doing that. No discussion, no answer, no comprehension, no, hey, this is what we're thinking, Chris, this is what we're looking, Chris. I do believe that Uvalde plays a large part of that, and so, but then it just didn't get delivered properly. And I'm going to be honest with you, I felt disrespected. And so at that point in my career of 29, 30 years at that time, I just felt maybe it was time for me to make a different step, to go into a different form of law enforcement. And the opportunity was for me to step in with Kendall County. Now, the reason why I want to come back is because my heart is still in Gillespie County. My heart is in the opportunity to work as a sheriff's office. However, because of my knowledge of the current sheriff's office, there was no way I would apply here. So that's why I took the job in Kendall County. So to me, that is the biggest reason why I'm coming back, to make sure that the deputies are getting the actual training they need, not the basic training, not the minimum standard, but the exceeding standard of training. My other goal was to come back to make sure that I have children that are still in the school district here. So people came to me and said, hey, Chris, you don't work anymore here. Would you consider running for sheriff? We really believe you have the opportunity. So just looking at that. Now, I did a lot of soul searching and a lot of praying to make that decision whether I was going to do this, because folks, if you've never done this, putting yourself out in front of a community, it drags your family right on in it. So I had to get that approval from my family to say, are you willing to support me? My wife and my 3 sons that live here. I have 2 older sons that live out of town. There's a need for me to apply for this job. There's a need for me to be in here to see change that's going to be positive change, not the same thing year after year. He mentioned, look at his Facebook page, look at their stuff. Go back a year and see if that's there. Go back a year past that and see if it's there. Go past a year back that and see if it's there. Right now, they are extremely hopping right now because it's a campaign year. I want to be able to say that in the end of my 4 years, that you say, holy crud, is he running for office every year that he's in office? So that's the need. I see a need for me to do that, and that's why I'm here.
Thank you very much. I don't know if I'm working. Okay, buddy, you can either answer, you can ask him, whatever you want to do. Both of you can go back and forth against each other because it's a debate. Come on. Okay, go ahead, buddy.
We have one current opening there at the sheriff's office, and I have said that an awful lot, and I guarantee you he hadn't applied for it. And I want you to know that the sheriff's office does an excellent job here, and I want you to realize that when I got in office, I started creating and changing things immediately. We now have a 96-bed jail here. We vacated one that was built in 1974 that held 16 people. We've moved on. We moved to a brand new jail. We proactively got new equipment in the vehicles and training for the officers and training for the jailers. So we are moving forward, and I want you to know that I'm very proud of the sheriff's office and each and everything that the employees have done, because you can't do it without them. Our most valuable asset and your most valuable asset are the employees that work for you. And I guarantee you I love each and every one of them, and I respect them, and I will defend them as best I can. And so in doing that, I just want y'all to know, we have an opening here. There is a vacant peace officer position here. And we're waiting for some more applicants. We may have some more, but I want you to know that I will not hire anyone that is not qualified to be an excellent sheriff's officer or a jailer here in this community. Because of the job that I do and the respect I have for you, I want to give you the very best of the best. Thank you.
Buddy, Chris, I'm Sharon Joseph. I know both of y'all. I represent a group of concerned citizens that are worried about health care in Gillespie County. We believe that the sale of the hospital was unnecessary, misguided, and perhaps even fraudulent. The board sold the assets that belonged to the community and then appointed themselves to manage plus or minus $150 million with no input from the community or any direction. The new board operates with no transparency or accountability, sprinkling money around to various organizations like fairy dust without revealing how much they spend, how they manage the money, how much they pay themselves, and these are all community funds. We have gone to the Attorney General's office, and they say that action must be taken by law enforcement for anything to be done about this miscarriage of justice. I'd like each of you to answer the question, would you be willing to work with us to seek accountability and transparency about the hospital?
I'm already working on it. I want you to know that I have had some meetings. I have conferred with a lot of attorneys. I have actually contacted some people within the Attorney General's office, and I have spoken to a lot of other law enforcement agencies that specialize in that type of offenses, I guess, or whatever you want to call it. I just want you to know that I'm already in the process of working on that. It is a very timely deal. It's going to take time to get that accomplished, but I want you to know that several months ago in a commissioner's court meeting, it was brought up. And at that meeting, and it's on the record, I know, I stood up and I said that I would be more than happy to sign anything that coming from the county judge or whoever here in the county to where we would be able to articulate that and to then go after this concern that y'all have, that our citizens have here in this county. And I know that there will be potential evidence and stuff, I guess, that would have to come forward. It's going to have to, in order to take those additional steps. But I want you to know that I was on the phone 3 days ago with a very, very astute person in the Attorney General's office. So I just want to let you know that I am already working on it. I just want to let you know that it's going to take some time. Please be patient.
Thank you. Go ahead, Chris.
Okay, so the answer to that question, if I'm elected, the answer is yes. I will definitely make sure that if he has started it, I would continue it. Based on what he's saying now, I don't know if that's true or not, but I'm going to look into it, because if there's strength in numbers. If I feel like as a person, because right now I'm not a sheriff, but I'm a member of this community, and I have to agree with what you said. That was a shocker to me. I have family that works there. They were more shocked than me because we found out it before they found out about it. And so yes, if there is a situation where I can assist as a citizen, but there's strength in numbers. But I'm also a person that says you go into this and you are professional. You look at it professional. You go in there screaming, we lose everybody. We have to go in there and we have to find out and understand. I got to talk to lawyers because I'm not one. I have to go to those attorneys and say, what rights do we have? Are they correct at the Attorney General's office, or are they dodging the opportunity? Are they really saying that so that they can get you out of their office? If that's the case, then I need to find out whether that's true or not. If I'm elected sheriff, I will make sure that that happens. And I will be more than happy to understand. If I take office, transparency is extremely important, because if we keep people in the dark, they won't know whether we're good at it or not at it. So that's what I was very disappointed in, and I'm going to say this, that hospital has been good to my family. They've taken good care of my family when they were Hill Country Memorial Hospital and so forth. I have family that works there, so my ultimate goal is to protect that interest of our community. So as a sheriff, if I'm elected, that will always be my interest. What is the best interest of the community and the people that live in it?
Thank you. Very good question. Great answers. In the blue shirt in the back. Is everybody good? Okay.
Yeah, this question is actually to both of you, but I don't care which one starts with it. As you're running for office, you're talking about changes. And I've heard both of you talk about leadership. And Chris, I think it's really important, and I'm glad that you recognize that there's a lot of leadership there and you're going to listen. But do you see any changes in the leadership in the Sheriff's Department right now when you take office? And Buddy, I want you to talk about that in your response, because as a citizen here, I realize I own a business. I've owned several businesses. It starts at the top. So do you see any changes in the leadership or the organizational structure, or are you just going to leave things the way they are?
I can take that answer if you want, Bert. Okay, I'll go with that answer. The answer to that question is yes. I think there needs to be leadership changes in that. I got to be honest with you, I'm a very big proponent of term limits. There comes a point where my goal is to get in that office and go in there and make such a change that you, the citizens, don't have to look at the newspaper. You just know it. You don't have to look at Facebook. You just know it, because the guys are that enthused of doing what they're doing. The key thing about leadership is it has to change at some point, and I do believe that currently right now. And folks, here's the deal. I can speak on my interviews with people that tell me that leadership needs to change in that office, and that's one of the reasons why I'm standing here. But at the same time, I ask you to go talk to those. I employ that the sheriff does not give them any ill feelings, or don't search why did they answer this way. Allow these deputies, allow these employees to speak freely about what they're experiencing in that position. That's why I'm standing up here, because they see the opportunity for change, and I understand their opportunity for change. I want to give them the change, but also in a very professional leadership role. Does that make sense? You are right. You're a business owner. You're a citizen here. If those guys are working for the sheriff's office, we can't just use the term do more, do better. I'm not sure what that means, and maybe the sheriff can explain that to you, what do more, do better does. But they just got some really good raises, and I'm very happy about that. But I want to see some productivity. I want to see increasing productivity of what they get, because the county gave us that role of more income for those deputies. I'm going to say right now, those deputies that are on the streets, they're rocking, they're doing a great job. But a lot of that is individual effort. And I'm not saying the sheriff isn't a good man and he's not a good leader, but at the same time, if he was doing what they expect and what they're looking for a vision for the future. I have a vision for the future, and that's to take care of the people of this Gillespie County area. And I just know that if you could talk to those guys and visit with those guys, you would hear what I'm hearing. So don't take it from me, what I'm saying, but I'm standing up here because I'm willing to put myself up there, because I see the need for change.
Yes, I want you to know that the budget season is just now coming up. We're going to be getting into that here pretty thick and pretty soon. I do want you to know that we've already got some ideas already on the table for some different structural changes within the jail, within the patrol division. We have our criminal interdiction unit, which is Kerr, Gillespie, and Kendall counties, that are already actively running around, moving, and doing a lot of great work on the interdiction, the human smuggling, the trafficking. So we have some great things going on in the sheriff's office here. As far as management and leadership, I believe that the team of the sheriff's office currently is a great team. We're doing a fantastic job. Of the 4 that are actually in the leadership position there, it encompasses over 130-something years of law enforcement experience. And I want you to know, and I want you to realize that the experience matters. And when you If you're not forward thinking, if you're not progressive, then things get stagnant. And I want you to know, those deputies that are driving around, and there's some of them here, they're driving around, you stop and talk to them in the restaurant. You visit with them anywhere you want to. You can come by the office and you can talk to them. I want you to know that those are your sheriff's deputies, those are your jailers. And as far as I'm concerned, you can ask any one of them any question you want. And I want you to realize, though, y'all have all been in business and you're a business owner and stuff. I want you to know, if you think that everyone is going to be happy with the decisions that you make as a manager, if you think that's going to happen, you're a fool, because it won't. The leadership decisions and management is done for a reason, and it's for the overall good of everyone. And then more importantly, it's for the good of you, the citizens of this county. Because, believe it or not, just as I am, they are all public servants to you as well. Thank you.
I thank you for being here to present some thoughts and ideas. And I have a question, I guess it's originally to be directed to Chris. And I was reading some Facebook ads and some other things in the newspaper that mentioned some community awards, which is fine. I mean, those are all really good. They show that you're a nice person. You've gotten some good attaboys for doing a lot of good work in the community. But it also talks about your 30 years of experience in law enforcement. And I'm still not very clear on what you have done, accomplished, or managed in law enforcement, because I think we're facing a very challenging time, as is the country and the state, on different rules of engagement. One thing that you mentioned a little bit earlier is about chasing a vehicle with some illegals in that vehicle, and you would go after the driver. There was I won't get into the detail of it, but there was a significant problem outside of Austin last year when a busload were coming. And it's not just the driver, are those people coming here to do something positive for the community, or are they potentially able to be arrested because of their records? So I think that has to be done. But I guess the important thing is not just management of some retail outlets, but what is your experience, your law enforcement experience, and how does it relate to managing a law enforcement department?
Okay, test. Okay, so the answer to that question is this. You have to understand that no matter what role I am as a law enforcement officer, the Constitution still stands. And I have to make sure that you abide by the Constitution. So again, where I'm not an expert at, I'm willing to sit down with the experts and to learn from them what should we do. When I mentioned that particular incident earlier, the reality of it is a lot of them took off running. But I want to say this. I've been in law enforcement for 30 years. I worked in South Texas, I worked in Pleasanton. We assisted a lot of those agencies on Interstate 37. The smuggling and the bringing of illegal aliens has been going on for years. This is not a new thing. What's new is social media is able to get that to your front door every second, every minute of the day. But if anyone's been in law enforcement for longer than 20 years, they're going to tell you loaded vans, loaded cars, loaded things that were smuggling people in has been going on for over 30, 40 years. All I can tell you is this. When it comes to whether or not they're here to do bad or not, we have to understand that the people that are crossing that border are not just Mexicans. There are people from all over. I talked to an individual that's working on the border. She is from Taiwan, and she spoke as much Cantonese as they were speaking Spanish with the people that were crossing the border. So that's an education that we, the people, need to understand, that we're not just looking at this as whether they're coming to cause harm. We know that there's a high potential they're crossing that border. The new laws that went in effect in March are increased for that we can talk to these people, identify these people, get to know these people. And the only way to do that is by interdiction, by interacting, by patrol. They're not going to drive up to the sheriff's office and walk into the sheriff's office and talk to them. It's got to be those boots on the ground. And that requires more specific training for those deputies to be able to understand that, to see that. But the Constitution says you must be a citizen of this United States, have the proper documentation, so we have to make sure that no matter what role I play in, that we adhere to the Constitution of the United States of America. And that is what we have to do, to make sure that. But training and education, not just to law enforcement, because you guys, people don't do things in front of a marked patrol car, okay? They do things in front of civilians. That's why you have to be trained as well. We have to educate the community on what to look for and what to see. But here's the other thing. I can tell you right now, you can drive around this area and you can drive, and there's some of those individuals you're worried about that are gainfully employed in this county. They're also gainfully employed in other counties. So if you allow them to be employed here without the proper documentation, you have to look at those individuals too. So for me, what I want you to understand is this is not something that's new. This is something that's front and center because social media and the media is able to get to you quicker and faster. Plain and simple.
I want you to know that yes, they've been coming over here for years and years. They have trails beat down out there in West Texas where they used to run rum and whiskey and everything else across the border. But I want you to know that currently right now there's probably about 183 different countries of people that have actually offensively flooded our border down there, and it's come across into our United States here without any documentation. They can tell the agents, whoever they are, if they want to give up, they can tell them whatever name they want to because they have nothing with them. So there's no telling how many Jane Does and Jim Smiths there are here, and if you name Smith or whatever, it might be more of you. But I'm just telling you what our job is we are here as from a law enforcement standpoint is to apprehend them, enforce the law, deport them, turn them over to the correct agencies that are responsible for doing that, and that's what we do. The ones that get away, the ones that travel under darkness, the ones that never come to the border and turn themselves in, the ones that never do it legally, quite frankly, are here illegally. And I will tell you that our officers and everybody, we work diligently to apprehend them and turn them over to the correct authorities to do what they may do with them. And I want you to know I commend our governor for everything that he's been trying to do down here. And I want you to realize that we're about 157 miles away from the border. The things that I fear are what is inside our country now that will be coming from within. And I want y'all to realize you stay attuned to the news, you stay attuned to the radio, you can call me, you can visit, you can find out. But I will tell you that what's happening down there is an invasion here into our United States. It's not just a county problem. It's not just a state problem. It is a national problem. And when we find them and they're not here legally, when they don't show up on our scans, when we arrest them for another violation, and we get them in the jail there and they don't belong here, I guarantee you we're going to hang on to them. And our San Antonio office is really diligent about coming and getting them. Sometimes within 3 hours, they've already vacated our county. The person that smuggled them in here goes over into the jail and then waits for their prosecution. And I guarantee you that our district attorney is very stern on those that are being imported in here illegally. And she gives them very good jail sentences for that, because that's what we're here for, is to keep our country safe. And that's my job as your sheriff, and each and every one of the deputies and everybody at that sheriff's office. Thank you.
Just a second.
This question is for both candidates. Ayala to respond first. With the increasing population of Hispanics into Gillespie County, what are your feelings about hiring more Hispanic deputies? And what are your feelings about DEI?
Okay, first of all, the understanding of the more Hispanics, they've been here for a while. I've been in the education system. If you want to know what dynamics of your education, of what population is, whether Hispanic, Anglo, go to a school district. They have to do that because the state mandates that they meet criteria for ESL, English as a second language, how they have to teach, how they do that. I'm working at the school district in Comfort as an SRO, and we have students that are coming from Guatemala and different areas of the country, of other countries. So as far as I'm concerned, when it comes to filling the population need of Hispanic officers, I'll be honest with you, I'm not an affirmative action kind of guy. I'm a qualified, I don't care what color you are the person I'm going to hire. I don't care, I'm not going to try to meet numbers, I'm not going to try to meet quotas, because to me, if I do that, I'll be honest with you, back when affirmative action hit, I don't really like flying airplanes now. And then all of a sudden they're saying we're going to fill in voids with people of color because we want to fill them in. I want to make sure that those people of color are the best mechanics working on the airplane that I'm about to climb into. So to me, the same thing goes for law enforcement. Folks, you're asking men and women to be the most with it under the worst of circumstances. Being involved in officer-involved shootings, and I've actually unfortunately taken a man's life and wounded another, that is a huge undertaking. And to make sure that you have the qualified person, not just physically, not just capable by training, but also mentally capable. And I'm going to be honest with you, for me, spiritually capable to handle that. So the best candidate is what I'm going to look for. DEI, I believe in diversity, I believe in inclusion, and I believe in equity, I believe in all that. But at the same time, I'm going to give that to any individual I hire anyways, but because they're also the best qualified candidate. Does that make sense, or do you understand that? The other thing that you have to realize is right now there are no female deputies working for the patrol shift right now. I would like to see females out on patrol personally. I work with 2 great females currently in Kendall County, and they do the job, and I have no trouble having them as backup officers. So that's a lack that we're hearing that. So those are the needs that I feel like we need to fill. The Hispanic population has been here for a while, and I think it's important that we recognize that because they're very functioning. As he asked a while ago, what is their intentions here? There are some hard-working Hispanics that are living here in Gillespie County and knocking it out of the park, trustworthy, paying their taxes, working hard every day, and showing up to a job, and that's why they're gainfully employed. Thank you.
I just want you to know that we have had our sheriff's office, y'all's sheriff's office, over the years, since I've been in there, and even before, have had female deputies, Hispanic workers. We've had well-qualified individuals apply here, and we've had some of them that have actually moved here. One of the most recent one was shortly before our pay raise deal went in. They moved here for a short period of time, about 3 weeks, and went off to another agency that paid more. So I want you to know that the biggest thing about having qualified people here, and great qualified people here, is it's not, I don't care if they're pink, purple, green, blue, whatever color, it doesn't make any difference, whatever nationality. I want to hire the very best, and that's what I continue to do. I have no quotas. I have nothing like that. There's none of that imposed on me that I have to hire so many females, so many males, so many different of this race or whatever. I hire the most qualified people to serve you. And if you look at our sheriff's office, throughout our sheriff's office, on patrol and in the jail and stuff, we have a diverse group of individuals working for y'all. Very knowledgeable from all backgrounds, ethnic backgrounds. So I want you to know that my main goal is professionalism and qualified applicants, because you are the taxpayers and you deserve the very best. And so I just want you to know that as your sheriff, I will continue to strive to find them. And like I say right now, we've only got 1 vacancy in patrol and we've got 2 in the jail. So we're doing very great. We're doing fantastic. And I want you to know that the reason I believe that has happened, 1, money does make a difference. I want y'all to realize that. Number 2, a lot of them live out of our counties because they cannot afford to live here. I've got a lot of jailers that live out of the county. I've got a lot of deputies that live out of the county. They travel great distances to work here for you. Now you tell me, why are they going to drive from New Braunfels all the way to come work for the sheriff's office over here when they could work for the one right there in Comal County? You know what it is? If you think about it, they love it here like we do, and they want to be here and they want to serve you. Think about that. I've got some of them that drive great distances that come here. but they come here because they love this community and they want to work here for y'all. And they are the very best qualified. I take qualified applicants. I'm just going to plain and simple. If you're the best, we like to hire the best. To be the best of the best, you got to have the best. That's it.
Thank you both. Esther, the gentleman in the gray shirt, right in front here. There you go.
Sometimes it's good to have change and sometimes it isn't. One of the things, as a retired law enforcement officer, I read the newspaper because that's the only source we have of knowing how the job that both the Fredericksburg Police Department and the county does. One thing that I have seen is that the county makes a whole lot of drug arrests. It looks like their officers are constantly stopping cars, and more than the city is. But it seems like it's working pretty well. And also the jail. I don't read very many articles in the paper about the jail not operating good. Not a single one. So apparently, whoever's running that jail, and I think it's a lieutenant, he's doing a mighty fine job. So just change for the sake of change doesn't seem to be something that's really needed as far as, now, there's a lot of drunk arrests downtown. Most of us have seen that. Apparently these people go out to these wineries, the 100 wineries, and then they go back into town to the bars, and then they're falling all over the streets. So, and they are, you can read it in the paper, that's what they're doing. They're falling down the street, and the Fredericksburg Police Department having to pick them up. So is the sheriff's office, making a lot of DWI arrests. I think it sounds like the job's being done pretty well. What is it, Mr. Ayala, you think that you can do better than what's being done now?
Okay, so when you look at the newspaper, I want you to understand that they're doing, and I said this earlier, the patrol guys are doing exactly what they're supposed to do. They're doing their job. But at the same time, they're doing it because that's their goal as an officer, to want to seek and do that. So when we look at what we need to change is this. Everyone has said this. Several people brought up the fact we have to look at the newspaper. That's the change I want. I want to see more community involvement with the sheriff's office. I don't want to just be completely, so when I look at how many of y'all look at arrest.org, how many people get arrested over and over and over and over again, I want to fix that as far as a sheriff and a change. What can we do to change that atmosphere that we're dealing with the same people over and over? If you look at the numbers, they look great. But at the same time, when you look at it, it's pretty much the same people. And yes, there is a responsibility of those people that are coming from out of town or that are drinking and going to our downtown area. The PD is making a lot of arrests as well, too. When you look at the drug arrest, that's exactly what the job of a patrol officer is to do. What I'm looking at is trying to enhance that with more training, with more direct training on drug interdiction, working with other agencies to bring them in. Like I said, I work well with others. How can we bring other agencies in to increase that? Just throwing them in jail isn't the only answer, because if that was the answer, nobody would be breaking the law anymore. If we said throw them in jail and that solves the problem. So we've got to do more as a community. We've got to do more as a sheriff's office to not only stop and arrest, but to prevent. And that's the change that I see we need to make for that as far as a community. We also need more community involvement, more connection with the community. And that's the big thing for me is right now everything looks good on paper because we're in a campaign year or running for office. I would like you to go back for a while and look at what the numbers were back then and what they did back then, taking nothing away from the deputies. But I want you to understand what you're seeing now in the papers is not also conducive of what you would have saw a year ago or a year and a half ago or 2 years ago. So I would like to do that. If you find something different, come find me because I've done my homework. All right, thank you.
I'm going to tell you, if you'd like to see the numbers, come by the office, because I guarantee you from day one, in January 1 of 2009, when I took this position, I put my foot on the pedal as far as running this county and running to take care and try to eradicate the problems that we have in this area of narcotics, everything. I've tried to do that very successfully. I want you to know that the deputies are doing a fantastic job. And we as a community, We've done a good job. I want you to know a lot of people have done a good job. Whenever your kid got in trouble at school, if you were like me, you usually got another whipping when you got home. But I do want you to know, if you think about it and just think back for a little bit, a lot of the things that happen is usually led by example. So when somebody gets in trouble, maybe at school or wherever else it may be, and they're made an example of them that, hey, you got caught with drugs, you got this, you got in trouble, then I can guarantee you everybody else in that community and all the rest of the kids in the school are like, holy moly, we're not going to do that. We're not going to violate the law. So we have done a great job. We've involved a lot of counties. Our officers are involved in working with other counties. They go help all the time. They were on a mission here the other day over in Kimball County. We work together very well. And I want you to know that Operation Stone Garden that I just got applied for, just got that money, is actually putting deputies out there on the road in an overtime capacity only to target nothing but the illegal people coming across the border, the fentanyl, the drugs, the methamphetamine. And so what we're trying to do is eradicate that, because I don't know that we'll ever be able to do it, but we sure are trying, and we're giving it our best go to try to eradicate it and do it with the tools and the resources that we have. But I want you to know, as law enforcement goes, you lead by example, and a lot of times when someone gets caught doing something wrong, violating the law, I want you to remember this and think about it for a little bit. When you got in trouble and you were held accountable, did you ever do it again? Most of the time, not. So I want you to realize I'm not a hug-a-thug type person to where I'll do something like that. My goal is to enforce the laws here and do that on your behalf, because that's what we have here in our society, is rules, regulations, and laws. Thank you.
Okay, these work a little different. I'd like to be Paul Harvey now and just say the rest of the stories here, but Chris, I have a question that's really burning in my mind, and I know the answer because I've talked to a teacher out at the school. How do you feel, how was the Uvalde shooting situation handled? And if you feel different now, what's changed your mind? The question is, how do you feel about the Uvalde shooting, how it was handled? And what the statement you made to the teachers, that's what I want to know.
Okay, so I knew that question was coming because he's posted it in Facebook, so I knew it was coming. So here's the answer to that question. I know the teacher that told you that. But I want you to understand, folks, is here's the deal. Those guys were put under an extreme amount of stress. What they decided to do, what they did decide to do, I wasn't there, so I can't speak on their behalf. But what I do know is I've been training this type of active shooter for over, I would say now 20 years. What you have to understand is the alert training that they took to respond to an active shooter. But I think people are leaving out that there was already a shooting taking place prior to the school shooting. So you had law enforcement officers doing the best that they could, or responding to a grandmother that just said she'd been shot in the face by her grandson, and officers are responding to that. And then the next thing you know, they get called out that there's a shooting going on at the elementary. They are now in a total OODA loop of what's going on. They're trying to respond to all of this. I can't tell you, but as a police officer, I can't even imagine what was going through their mind at that point in time. Now they're arriving on the scene of the actual shooting where the school is taking place. So there's two things, and training teaches us this. When we arrive on a scene, we're listening for gunfire. Gunfire or screaming help or something of that nature is our driving force. In other words, we're going to team up. If there's no active shooting going on, we are not going to make any movement until we can rebuild a team and get ready to move forward. So when they approach that classroom, there may have not been shooting going on. So if that's the case, we go into barricaded subject. So that at that point, we're now holding the perimeter. The next thing needs to be is this. I can say all day long, I'd have kicked in that door and I'd have gone there, but I wasn't there. Now, odds are I probably would have. Odds are I probably would have kicked in the door, but I can't speak for those gentlemen. And I would challenge anyone to put themselves in that position and make that same decision in that. So here's what you have to look at. Play devil's advocate. In a hostage barricaded situation, if I force that door open and that guy starts to keep shooting because we're forcing that door, those parents are going to go, hey, we appreciate you kicking in the door, but our 6 children were killed because you were pushing the envelope. Or you can hold back and try to get as much data, get the reinforcements there to make a better decision because nothing's happening right now. Yes, there are people bleeding, but we don't know that. This is a closed door environment. So the question is do you want to be held accountable for forcing your way in there and he kills more students and we do this and we keep going? The decision was made by those officers that were actually in the arena. Not for me, not for some teacher to stand outside of the arena and say, hey, I would have done it this way. So you have to understand, when I made that statement I said this, it's too early to say what we should have done or what they should have done because the stats aren't out. I said my answer is we wait until an investigation takes place, they put out the true data, and we find out exactly what happened. Because no matter what I feel, it doesn't change the events of Uvalde. Now, speaking for me, I'm going to tell you right now, my training was this. I told my children and my wife, if I see my son on the ground with a bullet wound on him, he knows that I'm walking past him because my goal is to stop the person that has put my son on the ground. Now, you can say what you want to say about what you think, but you have to be in the arena. You have to feel the sweat and the blood and what those guys were going through. I pray to this day that we never have to experience that. But that's why it's important that we have properly trained people in there. I can stand up here and just so that I get your vote and say, oh, I would have kicked in that door, that's what I would have done. But that would be unfair to those individual officers that were standing on the scene that day. And I'm not going to treat them that way. That's called respect.
I just want to let you know that that was a very horrific deal, and my heart goes out to all the family that were involved in that incident down there. It's a very difficult thing. It's a very hard deal for law enforcement for that to happen too. And I know you'll probably have to research it and go back and look it up, but as president of the Sheriff's Association at that time, I was called upon, along with another sheriff, to testify before the House and Senate committee on exactly that deal. So I went to Austin and I testified on the behalf of the Sheriff's Association and the sheriffs of the state of Texas in regards to that. And I want you to know that it's there, it's videoed. It was a very difficult thing to do. It was not easy for anyone to do. After that testimony there, within the next week or two, I actually went to Uvalde and spent a whole day with that sheriff down there. And I want you to know that he actually had some close friends of his, and one of his officers lost some people in that incident. So I want you to know it's tough to do the armchair quarterbacking deal. But I want you to know that I will give you, and I will tell you that the training that we have, that we are doing, and I can guarantee you what the officers deal and what their goal is in life is to protect and to serve, and if need be, give their life in doing so. So I made a statement here not too long ago. I had a school meeting with all the school people. I'm going to have another one here. There's a lot of legislation that comes out of an incident like that. So I've got another school meeting coming up here pretty soon. But I want to tell you, at that very first meeting that I had with all of those administrators, I told them, I want you to realize that here in Gillespie County, I, as your sheriff and deputies, are not going to stand around and wait for somebody else to make a decision on what we're going to do. We're going to do it right then, and we're going to continue to move forward. And all I can say is if I'm the first one through the door, or whoever else is the first one through the door, I pray to God that the rest of them behind me get them and put them down and neutralize the threat, because that's what it is, neutralizing the threat there. We don't have time to sit around and do that. But there is no such thing as a barricaded subject in an active school shooting. Thank you.
Okay, do we have any more? Where's the microphone? Oh, Esther Moe has a question. Oh, one in the back first.
I'm not very good at asking stuff like this, and I have changed my life because of that man right there. That man over there. They helped me change my life. What I'm going to say, I have gone through a lot of anger where I live. I can't have my children in my property because the drugs. I am to the point where I get real mean when it comes to drugs. I do not want them around my grandchildren. I don't want them around my family. Me and my family, we go to the Stonewall Baptist Church. We changed our lives. They all go with me. They come all the way from Harper. And we have brought a lot of children from Harper to our church. They follow us because of the way my grandchildren are. They're good kids. But I want to ask, what is it that we're going to do to protect our children in school? You know, are we going to put some bulletproof doors or something, or some guards, or to protect our children? Because I had just left Uvalde from a basketball game with my grandson, because I follow them everywhere they go. When we came home, like days later, we found out that all those children were killed. My family went back over there to go see how they could support and stuff like that. It was a sad story. I don't want to see stuff like that happen here in Stonewall or in Fredericksburg. You know, I know they got those chain link fence, but cameras is not going to keep a person from shooting a child. That lady, I don't know if it was a lady or what it was in Tennessee or wherever, she shot that glass window door, walked in there. When I seen the video, I seen that she was walking like she had been watching those games on TV. Like, you know, like they walk around, you know, and that was exactly what she was doing, the one that was going to shoot those people. But what we need, and what I'm concerned about, is the life of our children. People not owning the rights to have so many dogs, pit bulls. And I know police officers have gone to where I live to bust and been attacked by pit bulls. Why don't we have a leash law in Stonewall to protect our children and protect our officers from getting attacked by dogs that are vicious and might kill even one of the officers, trying to protect our children by keeping the drugs out of our community? That's all I got to say.
Did you have a question? No? Okay. Anybody else?
I have two different kind of questions. One is to you, Mr. Ayala, and I have been attending all these different various debates as we've been going along. In the very first debate, you actually stated that you would hire more Hispanic workers to reflect the increased Hispanic population here, which tonight you said was not the case. So first question is, which one is it?
Sorry, the answer to that question, I will hire qualified Hispanic people to work here.
Okay.
So to fill a void, I don't see how there's not a possibility that there's not 20 Hispanic officers running around in the state of Texas that could already be employed here. So there's no question in my mind that if that door is open, that qualified Hispanic people would move here, but they have to be welcomed here. They have to, and I'm going to be honest with you, I'll reiterate what he said. It's hard to live in Gillespie County, even with the increase in salary that the officers have. So to say that I would do that, the answer is correct, I would, if they're qualified candidates that are of a Hispanic background. I would hire them if they're of a Portuguese background, if they fit that. So the answer to that is I will put the right person. I don't care what race they are.
Okay. The second kind of comment / question I have is you keep talking about doing more and increase community involvement, et cetera. and the lack of transparency. And I do know Jerry Sotella's here, and he's been doing radio interviews with Sheriff Buddy for over 8 years. I also are on some of the different next door neighbor websites, and they have everyday reports coming out on what law enforcement has done. So I personally feel that it's actually very much. So my feeling is I'm a very busy lady, and I personally am very happy with what the Sheriff's Department is doing right now. And I honestly don't have time to go to a lot of community sheriff events, etc., nor would I want that to overwhelm the Sheriff's Department and they would not be able to do what they're supposed to be doing. What is your vision for more community events, and what would that involve?
Okay, so the answer to that question would be this. When you have a great group of deputies that can represent the Sheriff's Department, we need to give them more power to do just that. It doesn't always have to be a sheriff that shows up to those events. It has to be men and women that are qualified, that believe in the vision, that they speak the same way. If my mouth was to open up, their words would be the same, because we're all on the same playing field, we're all in the same vision. The beauty of what you feel about what you see right now, that's the beauty of this country. We get to have our own impression of what we feel and what we see. What I would like to do as my vision is to not only just have deputies that work for the Gillespie County Sheriff's Department, but to create the future competitors for the sheriff position. Not just teach them, say, hey, this is what you do, go out and do this, but to allow them to be educated with high training, to have a sense of worth, that they get to be involved in the community and not be saying, nope, this is a sheriff role, this is a lieutenant role. I want it to be where these guys are part of the community because they're given that window of opportunity through the fact that we're all speaking the same language as far as this is what we believe in as our community. The key thing to understand when you look at our community is it's one thing to patrol. I'm going to be quite honest with you. I'm a greeter. When I walk into a restaurant and I see people, I say hello to everybody. I'm shaking hands, say hello, hello, hello. I would like to know that our deputies would do the same because they represent these people, the people that are sitting in those restaurants or at those businesses. I want them to know that their vision is the same as my vision, that they know how important these people are, because I don't care what they say or what anyone says, they do pay our salaries. And so for me, what I'm looking for is not just we're arresting people, not just we're stopping people, but we are part of the people. And here's the deal. Some agencies don't want the sheriffs, or their leadership doesn't want the patrol to have that ability. I want the patrol to have that ability to not just be a show up, to be a part of that event. I wanted to listen to the sheriff's deputies and say to them, what do you feel? What do you see? And allow them to have that opportunity to say, sir, this is what I want to do. This is what I'd like to do. And then give them that window of opportunity. It can't just be about what we have to do what's best for the entire community. So what I would say this, that's your choice to choose what you want. But again, I go back to say, look further than the papers. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd just like to say our community involvement here with the officers is tremendous. They go to kid events. They go take the dog over to school programs. They are so involved in this community. They're at car shows. We have our unit there. We have people there that they can come up and ask questions and pick up a little something that says Gillespie County Sheriff's Office. We have our kids and our deputies involved in everything that happens in the sheriff's office. So to say that a deputy cannot come and speak something on behalf of the sheriff is wrong, because each and every officer and jailer that works there is an ambassador to the sheriff's office. They are the sheriff's office. They are your sheriff's deputies and jailers, everybody that works there. We are actively involved in this community. And I will tell you what, I keep hearing this stuff about, well, it's just now because it's election year. Well, I tell you what, ladies and gentlemen, I started January 1 of 2009, and I have always continued to be a faithful servant to you. And I guarantee if I see you in a restaurant, I'm going to tell you hi. And if you come over, or maybe I don't see you and you come over and talk to me, we're going to visit. You can ask me any question you want. And I want you to know that the ladies and gentlemen at the sheriff's office are of that same. You can ask them anything you want, because they are your ambassadors They represent your sheriff's office, and they are the image of the Gillespie County Sheriff's Office. I don't know how many convenience store checks they do, day and night, places of business that are closed in the middle of the night. During the day, they stop in there and get a Snicker bar and a Coke or whatever. They are actively involved in this community. They're not just sitting out here on the side of the road trying to catch somebody all the time, because that's just a small portion of law enforcement. The community involvement, the saying hi to you, the being there, that's where you see them at. And I guarantee you, when you see them, you can ask them anything you want, and you can ask them anything you want about me. And I'm going to be happy with their answer. 30 seconds? Okay. Those are your ambassadors. That's your sheriff's office, and they are everywhere. And yes, I've been talking for 8 or 9 years, doing programs here all the time to bring you up to speed on what your sheriff's office is doing and where we're going in the future. So, thank y'all.
We got another question? I'll get it right here, Esther.
So I've listened a lot tonight about y'all talk, talk about qualifications, and anybody who's worthy of the job gets it. But you know, a house is only brand new on day one. Day two, it's aging. What policies or practices would either one of y'all either currently or within your experience, seen put in place, or rather more importantly, put in place yourselves to maintain quality control on a personnel basis? And part two is, how does that communicate to the actual city level within Gillespie County? Fredericksburg PD, so on and so forth.
Did you understand the question?
Sorry, quality control within the personnel of the sheriff's office, and how does that work in conjunction with the cities within Gillespie County under either one of your watch?
Okay, quality control. How are they doing their job? What are they taking care of? What do we do if for some reason they are not? How do I want to do it? Oh, how do I monitor it? Oh, okay. Well, usually it comes from a complaint or something like that from a citizen. I didn't like how your deputy handled me. I didn't like this. Something within the jail. And I said, you know, you don't hear a lot about the jail, but that is a very, very different animal here, is the jail. But whenever anything comes up or a complaint comes from the citizens, I'm just going to say that, I'm going to talk about that. If a complaint comes from the citizen, then we have personnel in place to look at that complaint. I receive a lot of them. I'll pass it on down the line and let it be taken care of at the lowest level if possible. Okay, and when we do that, we use coaching sessions, we use corrective decisions, we use time off, we do whatever we can to correct the problems or deficiencies with that individual. And then, I hate to say, unfortunately, if some of those things don't work out, then it may lead to actual termination. The toughest thing that I have had to do. But I have done it, and I've done it a couple of times before, and it's not an easy thing because employees are valuable and they're hard to find. But I will tell you that sometimes they mess up, but there's a tier of how those things are taken care of, usually at the lowest level. Now, as far as how the city does that, they maintain the same protocol, I believe. Our policies and procedures, or is a book about this thick, and you're more than welcome to come look at it. It's actually very detailed, and we utilize that. Everybody reads it. Everybody knows what's in there. So we monitor that all the time. But like I say, sometimes something will come up to us. It's usually from a complaint or a phone call, and then we'll investigate. We'll investigate it and find out, and if need be, we'll open up an internal affairs investigation and monitor it, go it all the way through, especially if it has something to do that's maybe criminal. I hope that answered your question on how we do it, and that's how we have continued to do it, and we addressed our policies and procedures. They're a living document that changes, and usually a lot of things change in there because somebody did something wrong, and we've got to address it, or the TAC or somebody like that will come out with a new, latest, greatest operational procedures. Because if you realize we're insured we're insured, to make sure that we do the very best, because the liability in the law enforcement arena is very, very high. And so that risk, so we have to have great policies in place, and we have to adequately manage those, any discrepancies in there, to make sure that we're not liable for something. And that's, you know, I don't want to get sued, and I know y'all don't want to pay for any kind of lawsuit.
Okay, so yes, it's going to rely on a policy that you have for your department, but each patrol shift should have a supervisor. That supervisor should be very well aware of what his deputies are doing at any point in time while they're on patrol. There should be a point where at some point there's a system check on those deputies. How are things going for them? The big things about what we do is it's not just the shootings that affect our officers. It's car wrecks, it's fatalities, looking at people that unfortunately seeing young children that have been killed in car wrecks and have to endure that. So we have to looking at policy. That deputy may be going through something that we don't know about, but if we don't ask. So we need to do a system check. I promise as a sheriff, I want to get to know the deputies. I want to be able to walk in and say, hey, something's not right with that individual. Not that he's bad or anything like that, but what can we do to make sure that we have a communication from bottom to top where that deputy doesn't feel like they're going to be scorned because they speak up. If they violate a policy, is it a training issue? Is it a personal issue? What's going on? That's our job to find out and investigate. If it's just a bad situation they put themselves into, then I have to respectfully look at them and say, hey, this is going to cost you your job. But if it isn't that, then we have to evaluate what is the best response so that the citizens still get this deputy and he's at his best or she's at her best to perform her job as a deputy. So there's going to be a lot other than just policy that goes into taking care of the men and women that would work for you in a sheriff's office. There's a lot of dynamics that go on to it other than just policy. Policy is important, don't get me wrong. But it can be fluid, but it really needs to be set in stone. Because when it's set in stone, it protects the people on how we're going to process. No question in any situation, well, wait a minute, last year it was this week it's this. Nope, this is the policy, and this is how it will be, and this is how we respond. This is how we're going to treat our citizens. This is how we're going to handle that particular call. It can't just be made up as we go along, because that also puts the deputy in a position is, well, last week they did it, well, this week we don't like it. And this week we're not going to do it. I want a set policy that says this is how we're going to act, this is how we're going to perform, and this is the expectations. So there is no question under stress what they're to do. Thank you.
May I follow up? Okay. I'd just like to follow up on that part. Each and every one of us in law enforcement, I don't care where you're at, each and every one of us as human beings have tremendous amount of stress that is put on us in a daily, I mean, social media, everything else. And I want you to know that law enforcement officers and jailers and everybody in this profession are pretty private. They don't talk a lot about what goes on at work, and they don't bring a lot of that stuff home to them, but to their families, because I do want to let you know that things like that do have a tendency to eat on them. And if not addressed, it will cause deficiencies in their work and their productivity. We have excellent plans to find out if they do have a problem. We seek the necessary treatment for them. We have done that for years and years with people that have, quite frankly, it's a tough job. It's not an easy job. And by God, sometimes talking to your friends and your other law enforcement counterparts or anybody, public safety, it's not the easiest thing to do. You have to seek professional help in order to do it adequately and correctly, and we have done that for our team. And one other thing, when you see them on a daily basis, because like I said, I'm a full-time guy. I go to work real early in the morning. I work real late at night. I see the officers. I visit with them, visit with the supervisors, find out how they're doing. Maybe 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning when I roll into the parking lot and they're actually there. They're just going out to do a raid or something, bust in the door or do something like that. I visit with them. If I miss some of them sometimes when they're doing that. But I always find out how they did and how well they did. So everybody in that sheriff's office knows each other, because in that building, that law enforcement building there, because we are family and we take care of our family, and we know when something's wrong with one of our family members. And we address it accordingly, swiftly, and adequately with any type of resources that they need. to get them back on track to be the best of the best. So we take care of them. And so I just want to put that in there. It has happened. It will continue to happen. And we're prepared to address them as they come along. Yes.
Thank you. We said we were going to go to 7:30, but I think you want to do like 2 more questions and wrap it up? 2 questions, and then we're going to wrap it up. So this gentleman right here has not asked one. So we'll give it him, and then our second one.
I'm going to sit because I got my little ones here. My name is Gregory Porter, and there's a lot of role that the sheriff plays that is a really broad job. And over the course of the last 3 years, we've seen a big transition where I feel like the concern that I have is federal overreach is really maybe the biggest threat that we have. I mean, I spent a lot of time at the legislature this year, and the Republicans killed the border bills. You know, it wasn't the Democrats. So we have a problem right now where the federal government seems to be enrolled in enabling a lot of these problems. And so I'm really concerned that we have now a country where over the last 10 years, 200,000 regulations have been passed by non-elected administrators, and only 10,000 laws have been passed by Congress. So we live in a world now where these non-elected people are making up rules, and now they say that's the law. But unfortunately, a lot of those things are a complete violation of the United States Constitution. And so I'm just curious, question for both of you guys, how do you handle that? When somebody shows up that's got a federal badge on that says this is the law, and we know that that's a clear violation of the law, where do you stand and how are you going to handle it?
All right. So here's how we look at it. We have a Constitution. There should be no doubt how it works. There should be no doubt how it represents. We have what we call the rule of law, and the rule of law says this. We have legislation. We have the executive branch. They should always make their decisions based on the U.S. Constitution. That can never change. There has to be a process. It says that we dwell upon probable cause before we go take something from somebody. It dwells that we have more than mere suspicion. Before we stop somebody, we have to have probable cause to stop somebody. So the Constitution has been there. It's the longest running Constitution in the globe. It's the only way that we can survive as a country is if we adhere to the U.S. Constitution. We stray from that, we change from that, then we're no longer the country that our founding forefathers created that for. We have to represent, as a sheriff, we have to protect the citizens of the county as the sheriff that we represent to make sure that the government doesn't come in and take things from us without probable cause, doesn't come in there and take things without the process of the Fifth Amendment called due process, that they just get to do what they want. It has been proven in court under case law that the sheriff is not bound to do what the federal government says that they want him to do. The sheriff can say no to the federal government. And as a constitutional sheriff and believing in the Constitution, if I believe that our people of Gillespie County are being bullied of the overreach of the government, it is my responsibility as a sheriff to say, not in Gillespie County, you're not doing that. So we have to stand by the U.S. Constitution as it was written, not as it's going to be constantly interpreted, not by strictly people, but how the legislative branch decides, how the executive enforces what the legislative creates, and then we go to our Supreme Court. They must make the decision based on the Constitution, not their personal feelings, not what they think, not what they believe, but what the Constitution allows them to do. And it always comes down to the rights and the protection of the people of the United States. As a sheriff of your county, I would protect you by saying, have you met the guidelines and the protection of your inalienable rights by the U.S. Constitution? There is no other way to look at it. If they're doing something they're not supposed to, it's my duty, if I'm elected sheriff, to protect you and represent you as the sheriff of Gillespie County.
I want you to know that the Constitution is what we live by. That is what we have had for 250-something years. And I want you to know that it's something that I have always been very protective of and enforced the Constitution as it is written. And when it comes to government overreach, and if you want to say federal, or how about let's say state, let's say the state wants to do some overreach here in this community. Unfortunately, that happened here not too long ago with an untimely thing called COVID. It struck here in this community. Unfortunately, there was a lot of things. The unknown was tremendous. A lot of people didn't know what it was, and the thing came out that everybody had to wear a mask, and everybody needed a mask. And as your sheriff here in Gillespie County, I've made it publicly known and advertised that I wanted you to know here in Gillespie County that as your sheriff, you did not have to fear any of the deputies issuing you any kind of citation or requiring you to wear a mask if you didn't want to. And I stood by that, and I left it up to the individual. I told my officers, we even provided them for them. Hey, you're on a contact. If you feel that they've got a mask on, you want to do your, it's up to you, officer discretion. If the person wanted to wear a mask, that's up to them. And I guarantee you that was a tough decision to make here, because that was executive orders that were issued. But I, as your sheriff, felt that it should be your decision whether you wanted to do that or not. I hope and pray that we will never see anything like that again. But I do want to let you know that I've already stood there, I've already tested that, and I will stand fast again to do that again in the future if it comes up. So I want to let you know. I took an oath to the Constitution and the citizens of this state, and I want you to know I will enforce those and keep them true to you and protect each and every one of you against that overreach and against that unconstitutional advocacy that comes from the federal government, or even like I did from the state. That was a choice that I made here on behalf of you here in Gillespie County, and gave you that freedom that each and every one of us love, enjoy, and are guaranteed. It's the freedom to be an individual, to live, to prosper, to love life, do whatever you want here within the law, and live in this great state and this great nation. So I've already done it. I've been tested on that.
I have been in this community for 9 years, and I have been pretty much engaged in the political system here. I haven't really heard in 9 years that I have been here that the citizens of this community have an issue with our sheriff's department. And as a matter of fact, we have several organizations with donors that are contributing thousands of dollars every year that we provide appreciation luncheons for the law enforcement people, and they're very supportive of that. Now, having said that, and to really close this discussion, and I'm delighted that I was the first one to ask the question and end it, but I haven't heard, and I admire both of you and every law enforcement officers in that job, and I really have a lot of admiration for you guys and respect what you do on a daily basis. But we are at the junction where this election matters, and for me to change a job, this election, I like to be convinced. What are the salient, strong points that would make me to change my vote from what I have today to what I want to have tomorrow? And I really want you to, Mr. Ayala, I hate to say this, but you're in a tough situation. So give us maybe 3 examples that would convince me to vote for you. Thank you.
Okay, so what you have to look at is this. Anytime you have someone that's in an office, so what you have to realize is this. The one thing beautiful about this community, they are very pro-law enforcement. I don't care if you have who's in the office, they're very pro-law enforcement. The community of Gillespie County loves their law enforcement officers. They just do. That's a natural given. So that's why I don't believe you're going to hear a lot of negativity. So what you have to understand, for me, I've been hearing the negativity, not just from law enforcement, from fire departments, from EMS, from communications, from all these different agencies. So when I hear it, I have to respond to it. Now, I'll be honest with you, if I felt like things were wonderful and all that, I wouldn't even be standing up here today. So to convince you to understand that is when I saw a need, I felt like, it's worth putting myself out there. When you put yourself out there for something, you just don't do it because you want a job. You do it because you feel like you have the ability to make a change that people are going to recognize. So to answer your second question, what is it going to take to change? I would say this, don't just talk to me. Don't just listen to what I say. Go out and speak to the deputies and talk personal with them. He's already said you can. Don't just look at the stats in the newspaper. Go to the office and find out deeper stats. Find out more than just what's on the surface, because that's the important part of it. You as a citizen have that right to go and do that. So I'm going to say this. It is your job not just to listen to me. It's your job to say more than that. Say, I believe in this community because this is a very important election. And when you look at me and say, Officer Ayala, what can you sell me on that? I have to be respectful to what I say, and I'm going to always be respectful. But when he talks about he's going to protect that, he had his officers take triggers from citizens of his community with just ATF agents sitting in an office without any documentation, without anything that says these triggers were illegal. So he wasn't there to represent those citizens. There was no due process in that taking place. And that's what we have to be careful of. Whatever the situation was, and he can answer that, but I know, because I've spoken to the individuals that have had their items taken from them, that's a problem, and it has to be addressed. Now, me putting myself up here should tell you, why would any man, because I'm telling you, I either have, Chris, thank you for putting yourself out there, or are you nuts for doing this? But I believe that there needs to be change, and I will stand to represent that change. And I will stand there to say to you as a citizen, it cannot just be the sheriff by himself. It has to be the citizens that open those doors, that open those notes, that open up those cases to find out what's going on. Talk to your prosecutors. Find out what's happening in a department. Don't just leave it to me to tell you. So the answer to that is what it's going to take is it's not going to take me just saying it, because I can say whatever I want up here to win your vote. I can lie to you and I can swoo you all I want, but I want you to find out for yourself. For me, I did my homework, and so that's why I'm standing up here today, because for me, I see a need that we need to have change in the Gillespie County Sheriff's Office. So that's why I stand up here today. What you choose to do is the beauty of this country. That's your gift, and that's why we have to, and here's the deal. You can say all you want, but if you don't show up to vote, you have to show up to vote to speak. Whether you vote for him or whether you vote for me, I do care, but you have to go and show up to vote to tell people this is what I feel and this is what I'm thinking. You may not get to go out there and speak it like you want, but again, the citizens of this county have a right to look into, is what he's saying the truth? Is what he's saying that he's doing, is he really doing it? That's what you have a right to do. And that's what I'm asking you to do as a citizen. Don't just take my word for it.
Okay. I just want to let you know that unfortunately, if you're any type of manager, parent, grandparent, sometimes all the kids don't behave. Some things like that are out of your control. And I do want you to know that when something like that occurs, like he's talking about, yes, I was not there at the office at that day when that happened. I want you to know that that was immediately rectified after the fact with the individuals that had performed that and just said, nope, and no more. If I'm not here, or the chief deputy's not here, or the patrol lieutenant is here, if one of those agencies shows up with something like that, they need to visit with us first before they move on. So that has been rectified, that has been corrected. And I do want you to know that if you have a change, or you feel that there's going to be or needs to be a change, I want you to know that this is the last term that I am running. This is my last election. I am seeking your vote to continue to provide you the very best of the best. But I want you to know, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to be at the end of this. I hope I'm successful. I would hopefully and humbly ask for you to get out and vote for me, because we've got a few more things that I need to solidify before I leave this office. But I want you to know this is my last term, my last 4 years. So if you put me back in here, you're going to have me for 4 more years. I'm going to be here. I'm not going to change anything in the pivotal point of our county and what's going on right now. I'm going to continue to strive to be the very best of the best, provide you the very best of the best, give you the employees, well-trained people and individuals that you need, manage that jail. That's 96-bed jail. That is a monster of its own, managing the jail. But I want you to know that I've done it professionally and adequately for 15 years. Well, the jail wasn't built till 4/15 of 15. But I want you to know that I'm going to continue to give it my 110%. And I want you to know that the employees that work at the sheriff's office give you 110% every day. And when he said, you go ask them, I encourage you to go ask them. You go talk to my employees. You can ask them any question you want. They're your employees. They work for you. And I will tell you that I made this statement a long, long time ago. I have always considered myself a terrible politician. I consider myself a very professional public servant because that's all I know is how to serve y'all and do the very best for y'all, because you're the reason I get up every day and go to work. And your families are the reason that I get up and go to work. And more importantly, you've got a great county here to raise your families in, to be safe and secure in, and give you the very best that you need. Because I want you to know, when you're happy, everybody else is happy. Look around at some of the other communities around here in different areas in the state and see what's happening in those communities, and then look at your community here and tell me what kind of difference you see. It's night and day. I can guarantee you, it's night and day. Am I done? Okay, thank you.
Real quick, before, if they want to give one final reason why they want your vote and what they're going to do. Remember, early voting starts May 20th. That's a Monday through Friday, May 24th. And then voting day is May 28th. Get out there and vote. Don't leave yet. They have not finished speaking, everybody. So let's let them say one more thing. And then also, Esther, while you have the microphone, what is your next Thursday?
So next Thursday, the GOP Club at Fredericksburg will be hosting its last and final debate between these two gentlemen. We encourage you to come. I'm going to ask you to ask those hard questions because there is a lot at stake here. This is not just any office in the county. When they make decisions, it has the ability to impact lives, whether it's the officers or yours. They deserve to answer those tough questions. So I ask you next Thursday, we'll start at 5:30. Please bring those tough questions and come and listen and make your decision then. Thank you.
And where is it at?
Right here, Yee Haw Ranch.
And is the bar going to be open?
The bar is going to be open.
Okay, there you go.
And we will have light refreshments as well. So.
Okay, so we're going to give them one more chance to speak, and thank you very much to both of them for putting themselves out there, getting up, doing what they do, and we really appreciate all of you guys coming out and supporting this. Go ahead.
So first of all, I want to say thank you all for being out here tonight. That shows a lot of importance for you to come out, and those people back at home that are watching us, that have taken the time to do that. This is a beautiful community, and it has been an amazing community to raise my 3 sons in. I married a local girl from here. I'm very proud of that. I'm very proud of what I've done in this community. I've been responsible for a lot of cool projects. I've even helped organizations be founded and started in this community. I've given a lot of myself for the community of Gillespie County because I see that we are an amazing county. The second thing to look at is this. You have to vote. Again, I prefer you vote for me, but you have to get to your family, you have to get to your friends, and make sure that they come out and vote for whoever they choose to vote for. I have a phone number on my Facebook account. Please feel free to call me if you have any questions, if you have any discussions you would like to have. I'm more than willing to meet you in person. I have a car, we'll travel. I'd love to meet with you. The big thing for me is I would love for you to sit down with me and tell you how you feel. If elected, that is the most important thing I need to do is, first of all, listen. I need to look at it. How can I take that information and then turn it into the best ability that I could perform for you as your sheriff, as a leader for the people of Gillespie County. I promise to represent you as a constitutional sheriff, to protect your constitutional rights that were given to you by God, and to continue to provide a service that I would start from the day one. This would be my first term. I'm not in it to say that I'm just going to do it because I want to do it. I'm in it because I see a need. I see a need for the people. I see a need for the department or the office, and I want to make sure that I give it all to you. I won't leave anything or stone unturned of giving you my heart and passion as a professional police officer for over 32 years to make sure that you as Gillespie County get the best of what you desire and what you deserve. Thank you.
I want you to know that for 43 years, I have been a Texas peace officer protecting and serving the citizens of this great state and in other areas. And more importantly, the last 15 years here as your sheriff. And with that, I hope that you will realize what I have brought to this office in the last 15 years is the excellence, the integrity, the community involvement, the proactive law enforcement, and that you as citizens here are well satisfied with putting up with me for another 4 years. Because I have things that need to be changed, things that we're working on in our next budget process. But I have very frugally taken care and managed the $8.6 million that is entrusted to me within the budget process. Think about that. That's a lot of money. That is a very, very large sum of money. Public safety is expensive, equipment is expensive, and we have done the very best to provide you everything respectfully and frugally. Because if you feel that your tax dollars have not been spent wisely, please let me know. And as far as coming and seeing me or me seeing you, I'm all over this county. It's 1,062 square miles. It has over 800 miles of roadways in it, if you count the state highways. Our deputies and jailers have a big job to do, and they do it very well. The sergeant and now 5 deputies per shift, a sergeant and 5 per shift. As soon as we get full, that's going to be 6 officers running throughout the county on the various shifts that they are, 24/7, 365 for you. In the jail is staffed with 24 in there that work every day, 365, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They're there dedicated and serving you. And I'm humbly asking for you to vote for me as your sheriff. And please encourage all your family, friends, and relatives to get out and vote in this upcoming election, because it is an important race. Thank y'all, and thanks again for having us out here.